Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Okay, for your consideration, I have the following. Jerry from 2002, and this is directed by Gus Van Sant. It stars Casey Affleck and Matt Damon, and they also wrote this one. Although writing might be a bit of a odd description because there's actually very little dialogue in this. This is a film that will really infuriate some people and other people will love it. I actually love this one. So basically we've got a couple of guys who are driving in the wilderness in Utah. They get out of their car, they head off on a walk, and they get lost. And the film really is about their journey and their friendship and their test of friendship as they begin to realise that they're on a survival quest. Really fascinating kind of film, this. Extremely long takes. There's a lot of walking in here, a lot of silence, a lot of just silent contemplation. So like I say, this definitely will not be for everybody, but if you can get into the vibe, get into the groove of this, then it's a really, really fascinating film and fantastic location shots in Utah. Next we've got Quest for Fire from 1981, directed by Jean-Jacques Hano, who also directed The Bear in 1989. Great movie. This is a fascinating one, going back 80,000 years to prehistoric times, where we've got cavemen who are trying to harness and understand fire, and when fire disappears from their homestead, they have to go off in search of it and understand how to make it. But yeah, absolutely fascinating film. This was the feature film debut for Ron Perlman, and also a really early role for Ray Dawn Chong, who also later starred in Commando and The Colour Purple. And a lead role here as well for Everett McGill. Really good performance from him, and perhaps best known to audiences for being Big Ed Hurley in David Lynch's Twin Peaks. Oscar-winning makeup, and on the DVD feature as well, there's a featurette that's actually presented by Orson Welles. It's all fascinating stuff. Now, the grunts and groans that are spoken in this film are actually written by Anthony Burgess, who wrote the novel for A Clockwork Orange, and Desmond Morris, who wrote The Naked Ape, was a behavioural consultant on this, so guiding the actors in how they should move. So, absolutely fascinating film. Well worth watching. Next, from 2003, really beautiful film this, a Korean movie from Kim Ki-duk. This is Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter and Spring. Now, the lead actor in this, an aged Buddhist monk, is played by Oh Yong-soo, and he's an actor that's probably going to be best known to most people for being in Netflix hit series Squid Game as the aged player in that one. But yeah, absolutely beautiful drama, this one, involving an aged monk who lives on this absolutely beautiful little cabin on a floating raft on a huge lake that's surrounded by mountains, and he has a son growing up with him, and really the film is about the son's journey in terms of making his discoveries, making mistakes along the way in terms of his temptations and desires, and wanting to move away from the home as well, and then his return and enlightenment. But yeah, absolutely fascinating stuff. Beautiful colour palette on this one, really is gorgeous to look at. Now, if you head over to Vulgarian Troglodyte, his channel, he just recently did a video talking about international movies that deserve a Blu-ray, and he mentioned this one. So yeah, absolutely beautiful film, definitely worth seeking out. Ghosts of Mars from 2001, directed by John Carpenter. Quite a mess, this one. Although it's set on Mars, it might as well just be some kind of post-apocalyptic town called Mars. So this has a group who are assigned to go into a mining town on Mars to extract a dangerous criminal played by Ice Cube, and then they encounter a whole load of bloodthirsty, possessed beings there and get into all kinds of explosive scrapes. It's not particularly well done. The effects are quite ropey, but it does have a B-movie charm to it. So really, if you made this one black and white and got rid of the horrible heavy metal score, this could just be a fun B-movie flick. So the cast here includes Natasha Henstridge from Species, Pam Grier from Jackie Brown, and an early role for Jason Statham, who's really lecherous here, just constantly going after Natasha Henstridge's character. Bit creepy. But yeah, a cult following, it's okay. Elephant Walk from 1954. This is directed by William Diertel, who also directed Portrait of Jenny and the 1939 Charles Laughton version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. This has a 22-year-old Elizabeth Taylor starring in this, along with Peter Finch and Dana Andrews. Really melodramatic one, this. Peter Finch is a tea plantation owner. He comes to England, gets involved with and quickly weds Elizabeth Taylor, and then takes her back to Ceylon, where his tea plantation house is. Now, the house is built on a site which blocks elephants from getting to water, but he's kind of unperturbed by that. He really shows his true colours. He's an alcoholic. He has a whole load of colonialists living with him who just get into drunken games and bouts, and he really starts neglecting Taylor. There's only Dana Andrews as the plantation manager who shows any kind of empathy towards the locals, and Taylor as well. So yeah, like I say, really melodramatic stuff, but what really excels with this one is the finale, because we get this thunderous, spectacular finale involving elephants destroying the plantation house, and it really is quite something to behold. So yeah, a worthwhile watch. This one has been brought out recently by Imprint Films on Blu-ray. Cutie and the Boxer from 2013, really fascinating drama this, directed by Zach Heinzeling, concerning two struggling Japanese artists, Ushio and Noriko Shinohara, Japanese artists who move to New York, live in an apartment there, and struggle to pay the bills as their art is not selling. Now, Ushio Shinohara, really fascinating type of artist, because he is an action painter, and what that means is that he actually puts on boxing gloves and then wraps those boxing gloves in bits of cloth, dips them into paint, and then just punches his art on the walls and punches them onto canvas. It's a really expressive form of art, and this guy is in his 80s when we join him. Noriko, his wife, is very much seen by him as being his assistant, but she has her own artistic tendencies, and whilst he's been working away, she's been developing her own art with a character called Cutie that really is a kind of expression of herself. And as we watch this marriage continue, which very much shows the dependency that Ushio has on Noriko, we see her emerging skills develop more, and actually artists begin to take more recognition of her than they do him. So yeah, really fascinating character study here of a marriage, and how that relationship works, the dependency that's involved there, the love that is definitely involved there, the jealousies and resentments too. Great stuff. The Woman in Black from 2012, directed by James Watkins. This is a film I had no intention of going to see when it came out, and that's really because I knew and loved the actual stage production that there had been. I'd seen it 3 times, adapted from the novel by Susan Hill, and it tells the story of a young solicitor who was assigned to go and deal with the affairs of an estate at a remote location, and when he's there, he discovers that there's a vengeful ghost present. Now, the stage production was just so chilling. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in the theatre. Great use of sound and great use of shock scares. And I just didn't think that a film version would be able to equal it at all. And certainly The Woman in Black feature film does not equal it. But that said, it's really enjoyable, absolutely fantastically shot, and it does have a really good atmosphere to it. Not quite as scary, I would say, as the stage production, but really enjoyable nonetheless. Now, this was Daniel Radcliffe's first role after exiting the Harry Potter franchise, and he's really good in this. So, yeah, fair play to him, actually. Like I say, I had no intention of seeing this in 2012. Absolutely love it now. But yeah, an interesting watch, and perhaps even a timely one as well. Director James Watkins has a new horror movie coming out next month, which is Speak No Evil, starring James McAvoy. And also next month, there's going to be a new film adaptation of another Susan Hill story, and that one's going to be called The Front Room, and it's directed by Max and Sam Eggers, who are the brothers of Robert Eggers, the director who is going to be bringing to us a reworking of Nosferatu later this year. Dangerous Moonlight from 1941, directed by Brian Desmond Hurst, a director who's perhaps best known for directing Alistair Sim in the 1951 Scrooge or A Christmas Carol. But yeah, here we have Anton Walbrook, the great actor from movies such as The Red Shoes, Gaslight and Queen of Spades, playing a Polish pianist and fighter pilot who has escaped Warsaw. He meets an American news reporter played by Sally Gray. They get married. He plays piano so as to raise funds for the war efforts, but he has this yearning to go back and still fight for his country. So yeah, quite a melodramatic drama, I suppose, but the rapport between Walbrook and Sally Gray is really good. Their performances together are excellent, and this film was noted for its Warsaw Concerto piano piece that was written by Richard Adensel, but which has a very Rachmaninoff flavour to it. Yeah, enticing drama, this one. Like I say, a bit melodramatic, but definitely some good moments. And Sally Gray is terrific in this. After this film, she unfortunately suffered a nervous breakdown and then didn't return to films until 5 years later. And that was in a film which was Green for Danger, which I have just talked about in my movies that are going to be showing as hidden gems of cinema at the BFI South Bank. Now, recently on my channel I did a movie challenge called Colour, Sound and Spectacle. Feel free to take part in that if you haven't done so already. Now, 3 of the movie YouTubers who did take part in that challenge all have something in common, and that is their enjoyment in the boutique label Deaf Crocodile, and in particular a Russian director who's had his films restored and re-released, and that is Russian director Alexander Petrushko. So I just want to talk about a couple of those films for a moment, because these really are spectacular. One is Ilya Muromets from 1956, which also goes by the title The Sword and the Dragon. Now, you might get put off by looking it up on IMDb and seeing a relatively low score, but that's because originally it was butchered and re-edited for the American market and didn't make much sense. What we now have is this absolutely spectacular motion picture. Ilya Muromets, mythical character, didn't have the use of his legs for the early years of his life, sees his village plundered and attacked, and is then presented with a magic potion and a sword, which makes him this brave, strong, large warrior, and he then sets out across the land to battle against the pagan armies and encounters a few different types of antagonists along the way, including a wind demon and then ultimately a fire-breathing dragon as well. So yeah, it's all very sort of heroic stuff, definitely fairy tale things here. So we're seeing a lot of Russian culture, so some of that cultural aspects might fly over people's heads. It did for me to an extent, but yeah, this is absolutely spectacular. They used hundreds of thousands of extras in this and 10,000 horses, I believe. So some of these scenes that you're looking at are just so brilliantly composed and spectacular and epic. So there is always something to look at in this film. And then the next one is called The Tale of Tsar Sultan, and that's from 1967. It's the penultimate film from Alexander Petrushko. This is much more of a fairy tale, kind of in the sort of Cinderella vein, I suppose, because it involves evil sisters scheming to plot against their more beautiful sister, who becomes queen, and they are trying to stop her from enjoying happiness in her life. So yeah, this one is much more of a fairy tale story, so not quite as epic scale and spectacular as Ilya Muromets, but I must admit I think I enjoyed this one a little bit more, because the colour palette that is used in this film again is absolutely glorious. This is so colourful, the shots in this are so well composed. It is absolutely a beautiful film to look at. Okay, there we go, a range of movies there. Hopefully those were of interest to you. Let me know which ones you've seen, which ones you might be interested to see. Leave me your comments. Please do join me again for more videos. Like, subscribe, go on. Okay, thanks very much. All the best to you. Bye-bye.